Welcome to the beginning of your transformation. As you listen these words, something powerful is already happening within you. A shift in perception that will change everything. I want to ask you something important. Who would you be if wealth was already yours? How would you walk through the world? How would you speak to others and to yourself? What thoughts would fill your mind as you opened your eyes each morning, knowing that abundance flows to you effortlessly? I remember asking myself these questions years ago while sitting at my kitchen table. Bills spread out before me, that familiar knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. The gap between where I was and where I wanted to be seemed impossibly wide. Perhaps you felt that too, that disconnect between your financial reality and your deepest desires. But that day, something shifted. I realized I'd been approaching everything backward. I was waiting for my circumstances to change before I would change how I felt, how I thought, and how I moved through the world. That realization transformed everything for me, and it can do the same for you. I'm not asking you to pretend. I'm asking you to recognize a profound truth that changed my life. Wealth begins within. Here's what I discovered on my own journey. The world doesn't give you what you want. It gives you who you are. Most people live their entire lives waiting for external circumstances to determine their internal state. They say, when I have more money, then I'll feel secure. When I achieve success, then I'll feel confident. When my problems disappear, then I'll feel peace. But that's not how life works. You don't need to wait for your bank account to change before you change how you feel about money. The secret, the real, life-changing secret, is this. You must believe before you see. The evidence appears only after you've accepted abundance as your reality. I spent years waiting for proof before I would believe. I checked my accounts obsessively, hoping to see growth that would justify feeling good about my financial situation. Each time the numbers didn't meet my expectations, I'd spiral into worry and doubt, unconsciously reinforcing my connection to lack. Then I encountered a principle that flipped everything on its head. Your outer world is nothing more than a reflection of your inner state. Think about that. Everything you see, touch, and experience began first as a thought, a feeling, an assumption in your mind. Your current financial situation isn't random. It's the physical manifestation of your dominant beliefs about money, success, and your worthiness to receive. The moment I flipped that script and began living as if I already had everything I needed, feeling the emotions of wealth, thinking the thoughts of abundance, carrying myself with the confidence of someone financially free, my entire reality began to shift. Opportunities emerged that I couldn't have planned. Resources appeared from unexpected sources. Doors opened that I didn't even know existed. Not because I was lucky, not because I was special, but because I changed from the inside out. You need to step into your wealthy self right now. And here's how. Look at how wealthy people move through life. They don't question whether opportunity will find them. They expect it. They don't worry about resources. They know resources will come. They carry an unshakable confidence, not because they have money, but because they embody wealth as a state of being. I used to watch successful people and think their confidence came from their achievements. Now I understand their achievements came from their confidence rooted in how they saw themselves, not in their circumstances. This isn't about arrogance. It's about alignment. When you align your thoughts, feelings, and actions with abundance rather than scarcity, you become a different person. And when you become different, your life becomes different too. I remember attending a business conference years ago before my financial breakthrough. I felt out of place, intimidated by people who seemed so much more successful than me. I hunched my shoulders, spoke timidly, and constantly apologized for taking up space. A mentor pulled me aside and said something I'll never forget. You're acting like someone who doesn't belong here. But wealth isn't about what's in your wallet, it's about what's in your mind. Stand tall, speak clearly. You belong in any room you enter. That day, I made a conscious decision to step into my wealthy self, not the self I thought I needed to become someday, but the wealthy self that was already within me, waiting to be expressed. So I'm asking you to do something radical. Assume the state of wealth right now, not tomorrow, not when circumstances change. Now, begin moving through your day as if abundance is your natural state. Make decisions from a place of sufficiency rather than lack. Treat yourself with the care and respect that a wealthy person would. Invest in your growth as someone who expects return. This shift may feel uncomfortable at first. Your logical mind will argue, pointing to your current circumstances as evidence that you're pretending. But remember, circumstances don't create your state. Your state creates your circumstance. So what exactly is wealth? Is it a number in your bank account? Is it properties and possessions? Is it the freedom to do what you want when you want? I've come to understand that real wealth is a psychology before it's a reality. It's a way of perceiving yourself and the world around you. The wealthy mind sees possibilities where others see problems. It sees resources where others see restrictions. It sees abundance where others see scarcity. I used to have what I now call broke thinking. I would walk into a store and immediately look at price tags, calculating what I couldn't afford. I would see opportunities and focus on all the reasons they wouldn't work out for me. I would dwell on past financial mistakes, letting them define my identity and limit my future. This psychology of lack kept me trapped in a reality that matched it perfectly. Transforming my psychology of wealth meant, instead of asking, "Can I afford this?" I began asking, "How can I afford this?" Instead of seeing myself as someone who struggled with money, I began seeing myself as someone who was learning to master money. Instead of focusing on what was going wrong financially, I directed my attention to what was going right. Instead of comparing myself to those who had more, I practiced gratitude for the abundance already present in my life. This psychological shift didn't happen overnight. It required consistent awareness, catching myself when I slipped into old patterns of thought. It meant surrounding myself with books, podcasts, and people who reinforced a wealthy mindset. It meant practicing new thought patterns until they became natural. But with time and persistence, my psychology transformed, and as it did, my external reality had no choice but to follow. There's a world of difference between wishing for wealth and knowing it's already yours. Wishing keeps you stuck in wanting. It's like standing outside a door, knocking, and hoping someone lets you in. But when you live from the end, when you mentally and emotionally step into the reality where your desire is fulfilled, you're no longer outside looking in. You're already home. I remember clearly the day this clicked for me. I was facing bills I wasn't sure how to pay. Yet I made a decision. I am financially free. This is temporary, but my wealth is permanent. I stopped seeing myself as someone struggling to become wealthy and started seeing myself as someone wealthy navigating a temporary situation. That subtle shift changed everything, not because it magically deposited money in my account, but because it changed how I responded to opportunities, how I spoke about money, and how I carried myself in the world. When a new business prospect came my way, I didn't approach it from desperation. I approached it with the calm assurance of someone who was already successful, who could take it or leave it. This energy was magnetic, drawing more opportunities my way. When unexpected expenses arose, I didn't panic, as I once would have. I met them with the certainty that resources would come, and they always did, often in ways I couldn't have anticipated. Living from the end means making decisions based on where you're going, not where you've been. Speaking about your finances as you want them to be, not as they currently appear. Feeling the emotions of financial freedom before the external evidence arrives. Taking actions aligned with the wealthy version of yourself, not the struggling version. This isn't about denial or delusion. It's about understanding that your current circumstances are the result of past thinking, and your future circumstances will be determined by how you choose to think and feel right now. So how do feelings become things? Your emotions aren't just reactions, they're creative forces. When you consistently feel wealthy, grateful, and secure, you vibrate at a frequency that attracts matching experiences. I used to dismiss this idea as too mystical, too intangible. But then I began to observe how my emotional states were directly connected to my experiences. When I felt anxious about money, I'd make impulsive decisions that led to more financial stress. When I felt resentful about bills, more unexpected expenses would appear. When I felt unworthy of wealth, opportunities would come, but I'd find ways to sabotage them. Most people have it backward. They wait to feel abundant until they see abundance. They wait to feel confident until they achieve success. But that's not how this works. The universe responds not to what you want, but to what you are, and what you are is determined largely by how you feel on a consistent basis. You must generate the feeling first. Wake up and consciously choose to feel financially secure before checking your accounts. Walk into meetings feeling valuable before anyone acknowledges your worth. Make decisions from a place of abundance even when facing temporary limitations. One of the biggest blocks I faced on my journey was obsessing over how my financial breakthrough would come. I wanted a roadmap, a guarantee, a step-by-step plan. I'd lie awake at night trying to calculate exactly how much I needed to earn, which opportunities to pursue, what investments might pay off fastest. My mind spun with endless scenarios and possibilities, each one leaving me more anxious than the last. But here's what I learned. Your job isn't to figure out how, your job is to hold the vision and trust the process. Think about a farmer planting seeds. He doesn't dig them up every day to check their progress. He doesn't stand over them demanding they grow faster. He plants with confidence, nurtures consistently, and trusts the harvest will come. The how isn't your responsibility. The universe has infinite channels through which abundance can flow to you, many more creative and wonderful than you could possibly imagine. Your task is simply to keep your vision clear and your vibration high. I remember the turning point came when I finally surrendered my need to control. I had been pursuing a particular business opportunity that I was convinced was my path to wealth. When it fell through, I was devastated, until a seemingly random conversation 3 days later led to an even better opportunity that I couldn't have planned if I tried. That experience taught me something invaluable. The path to your desires rarely unfolds the way you think it will. When you try to micromanage the process, you actually limit the ways abundance can reach you. Instead, focus on clarity about what you want, not the specific path to get there. Release your attachment to timelines and let things unfold in divine timing. Stay open to unexpected opportunities, even if they don't match your original plan. Trust that if a particular door closes, it's because a better one is about to open. When you release your grip on the how, you allow the universe to surprise you with its creativity and generosity. You also need to learn to speak the language of wealth. Your words shape your reality. Every time you say, "I can't afford that," or "money is so hard to come by," you're writing that story into existence. I had to completely transform my vocabulary around money. Instead of saying, "I can't afford it," I began saying, "I'm choosing to invest my money elsewhere right now." Instead of complaining about bills, I practiced gratitude for the services they represented. A wealthy person doesn't speak the language of lack. They don't constantly talk about what they can't do or can't have. They speak with assurance, make decisions with clarity, and approach life with the certainty that they'll always have what they need. I made a conscious effort to eliminate phrases like, "I'm broke, I can't afford that," "Money doesn't grow on trees," "I'll never get out of debt," "Rich people are just lucky," and replace them with, "I'm making strategic financial choices. That's not a priority for me right now. Money flows to me through multiple channels. I'm becoming more financially free every day. Wealth is available to anyone who aligns with it." At first, these new phrases felt foreign, even false. But I persisted, knowing that my words weren't just describing my reality. They were creating it. Within weeks, I noticed subtle shifts. I felt more empowered around money decisions. I stopped feeling victimized by my financial situation. I began to see opportunities where before I had only seen obstacles. Your words aren't just describing your reality, they're creating it. Choose them wisely. Also, carry yourself with confidence. How do you walk into a room? How do you look at a price tag? How do you make decisions? A wealthy person moves with quiet confidence, not arrogance, confidence. They know their value. They trust their judgment. They approach opportunities with excitement rather than fear. I remember consciously changing how I carried myself, standing taller, making decisions more decisively, treating myself with the care and respect I'd give to someone I deeply valued. These weren't just physical changes, they were expressions of a fundamental shift in how I saw myself. Your physiology affects your psychology. When you carry yourself like the wealthy person you already are inside, you strengthen that identity and make it more real. I began a practice of wealth embodiment that dramatically accelerated my transformation. I paid attention to my posture, standing tall with my shoulders back. I made eye contact and spoke clearly, without undermining myself. I dressed in a way that made me feel successful. Even when no one was watching, I made decisions promptly rather than hesitating from fear. I treated myself to small luxuries that reinforced my worth. One particularly powerful practice was walking into high-end stores or luxury hotels, places I once felt I didn't belong, and simply allowing myself to be there comfortably, without apology or explanation. At first, it felt like acting, but with consistency, it became natural. The more I embodied wealth physically, the more my mindset shifted to match. This isn't about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about aligning your physical expression with the wealthy self that already exists within you. One often overlooked aspect of wealth creation is the influence of your social circle. The people you spend time with shape your beliefs, expectations, and behaviors around money more than you might realize. I had to make some difficult but necessary changes in who I allowed to influence my financial mindset. Some friends consistently spoke about money with fear and limitation. Some family members reinforced the belief that wealth was for other people, not us. Some colleagues normalized financial struggle as just the way things are. Surrounding yourself with wealth consciousness means seeking mentors who have achieved the financial freedom you desire, reading books by those who understand the principles of abundance, joining communities where prosperity thinking is the norm, limiting exposure to chronic complainers and scarcity thinkers, finding friends who support your vision rather than questioning it. This doesn't mean abandoning everyone who isn't wealthy. It means being intentional about whose financial opinions you internalize and whose money mindset you allow to influence yours. When I began spending time with entrepreneurs who talked about money confidently, who saw opportunities everywhere, who expected success rather than bracing for failure, my own thinking began to shift by osmosis. Your wealth consciousness is either being elevated or diminished by the company you keep. Choose wisely. Persistence is key, so you must persist until it manifests. This might be the most important part of your journey. There will be days when your old doubts creep back in. There will be moments when circumstances seem to contradict your vision. There will be people who question your confidence when they can't see what you see. These are tests not of whether your desire is possible, but of whether you'll remain faithful to your vision when appearances suggest otherwise. I've faced those moments. I've had days when I wondered if I was fooling myself. I've had financial setbacks that tempted me to abandon my belief in abundance. I've had well-meaning friends suggest I was being unrealistic, but I made a decision to stand firm, to keep embodying wealth regardless of what my circumstances were showing me. I remember one particularly challenging period when several expected payments didn't come through, and I was facing some significant expenses. The old me would have panicked, seen it as confirmation that financial stability was always beyond my reach. Instead, I doubled down on my wealth practices. I increased my visualization time. I became even more vigilant about my self-talk. I acted with even more confidence and certainty. I refused to let temporary circumstances dictate my permanent identity. Within weeks, not only did the delayed payments arrive, but new opportunities came that more than compensated for the temporary shortfall. And here's what I discovered. When you refuse to waver in your assumption, when you persist in the feeling of already having what you desire, reality has no choice but to reshape itself around your conviction. Persistence means maintaining your wealth consciousness even when your bank account temporarily disagrees, continuing to speak, think, and act wealthy even when no one else sees your vision, treating financial setbacks as temporary detours, not permanent destinations, staying faithful to your assumption until it hardens into physical fact. The universe doesn't reward wishful thinking or sporadic effort. It responds to unwavering conviction maintained long enough to become your dominant vibration. Remember this. What you see around you today is the result of past thinking. It has no power to determine your future unless you give it that power. Your turning point comes the moment you decide that your inner vision is more real than your outer circumstances. And you live from that place without apology or doubt. For me, that turning point wasn't dramatic. It wasn't marked by sudden wealth or overnight success. It was simply the quiet but firm decision that I would no longer be defined by my financial past or present circumstances. I decided that my true identity was abundant, prosperous, and wealthy, and I would live from that truth regardless of temporary appearances. From that day forward, I stopped seeking evidence before believing. I stopped allowing bank statements to determine my worth. I stopped waiting for permission to feel the way a wealthy person feels. Instead, I claimed my prosperity consciousness as my birthright. I owned it fully, lived it consistently, and trusted the manifestation process completely. I'm not asking you to ignore practical actions. Take those steps. Work diligently. Seize opportunity, but do it all from the consciousness of one who already has what they desire, not as someone desperately trying to get something they lack. The practical actions you take from a state of abundance have a completely different energy and therefore different results than the same actions taken from a state of lack. Practice gratitude for what is and what's coming. Gratitude is the highest frequency you can emit. It's impossible to feel truly grateful and fearful at the same time. When you practice genuine gratitude, you automatically shift into an abundance mindset. I developed a two-part gratitude practice that accelerated my financial transformation. First, I practiced radical gratitude for my current reality, even the parts that seemed challenging. I gave thanks for the bills because they represented services that enhanced my life. I appreciated the job I wanted to leave because it was funding my transition. I found gratitude for past financial mistakes because they taught me valuable lessons. Second, I practiced gratitude for what was on its way to me. I would close my eyes and feel deeply thankful for the wealth that was already mine in consciousness, already making its way into my physical experience. This dual approach to gratitude kept me rooted in abundance rather than lack. It helped me see that I was already wealthy in countless ways and that even greater prosperity was unfolding for me. Try this practice. Each morning, list 5 aspects of your current financial situation you can genuinely appreciate. Each evening, express gratitude for 5 aspects of the wealth that's currently manifesting for you. This simple discipline trains your mind to recognize abundance rather than scarcity, accelerating your financial transformation. While your mental and emotional alignment is the foundation of wealth creation, it must be paired with inspired action for full manifestation. The key word here is inspired. There's a world of difference between forced action fueled by fear and inspired action flowing from alignment. When you're aligned with wealth consciousness, you'll feel naturally drawn to certain opportunities, ideas, or pathways. These nudges from your intuition are your internal guidance system pointing you toward your prosperity. I used to exhaust myself with endless hustle, trying to force money to come through sheer effort. Now I understand that aligned action feels different. It feels exciting rather than draining. It feels natural rather than forced. And most importantly, it yields results far beyond the effort invested. Pay attention to the ideas that come when you're in a state of abundance. Notice the opportunities that excite you. Follow the breadcrumbs of inspiration, taking one aligned step at a time. Remember that inspired action isn't always big or dramatic. Sometimes it's as simple as making that phone call you've been putting off, organizing your finances, or investing in yourself in some meaningful way. What matters isn't the size of the action, but the consciousness behind it. Are you acting from fear and lack, or from confidence and abundance? The external action might look identical, but the energy behind it, and therefore the results it produces, will be worlds apart. Your wealth is waiting. Everything you seek, the financial freedom, the peace of mind, the ability to live generously and joyfully, it's already within you. It exists right now as a potential reality, waiting for you to step into it. Your imagination isn't fantasy, it's the preview of coming attractions. When you use it deliberately to feel the reality you desire, you align with that reality and draw it into your experience. I know this path isn't always easy. There will be moments when your logical mind argues with your vision. There will be days when your outer circumstances seem to contradict what you're creating internally. But I also know this. If you persist in your wealth consciousness, if you refuse to be defined by temporary conditions, your external reality must eventually conform to your inner state. This is the promise and the process that transformed my life, and it will transform yours too if you allow it. Sip as if you're already wealthy. Think as if abundance is already yours. Feel the emotions of financial freedom now, and watch as your outer world reshapes itself to match the wealth you've already claimed within. This isn't theory. This isn't wishful thinking. This is transformation at the most fundamental level, and it begins the moment you decide it's true for you. Your wealth is waiting, not in some distant future, but right now, in the consciousness you choose to embody today. Step into it now, claim it as yours, and never look back.